Today on Fine Home Talks, I'm here with Tom from Buck Electric. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for
And
having me.
how long have you been with the company? How long have you been an electrician? Give me a
Um,
little.
yeah, so I've had my electrical contracting business for 6 years come November.
Nice.
And I've been in the industry since high school.
Nice.
So I haven't
Yeah.
really ever left it, but I did take a short break um, where I wasn't doing it full time. I was actually in finance. I went to college, it's a whole thing, but fortunately was able to,
Listen,
yeah.
all small business owners have this. Well, I'm not going to say all, most have this like weird sometimes, and even in small, right? It's a small business. Like there's no straight lines.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't say. I don't know if you would agree with that, but
In my experience, I would say that I didn't think I'd ever have my own business. It
yeah.
was not something I was pursuing when I was younger. It was
Yeah.
different ideas, and
Yeah.
how many times that has changed to be where I
It's
am.
it's interesting how like I have my master's in social work. I sell real estate. Like
Right,
it's just
right.
and but I use my degree
Of course.
all day.
Yeah. I mean,
And like not in the direct practice, right? Like I'm not their social worker, but
right.
it's something that yeah, life is an interesting
Yeah. I
journey.
mean, at least we had the blessing to be able to see both sides.
It's
You know what
true.
I mean? To know, right?
100%. And I think I used to say like I can't believe I did have a moment there where I'm like I can't believe I have a master's degree,
Yeah.
but I do look at it as it was a journey, and
Absolutely.
now it's a different viewpoint.
Absolutely.
Just got me to
Yeah.
this spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very blessed for
Love
that.
it.
Yeah.
Love it. You guys service which parts of Connecticut?
So we are located in Naugatuck, but we'll cover pretty much an hour within radius of Naugatuck. So, like I was telling Dave, it's pretty much Danbury down to Greenwich to Hartford to anywhere,
Yeah,
anywhere.
our
We,
state's pretty small
yeah, it
compared
is.
to other people that I've
Yeah,
met, and like a California person that lives in California is like their commute
yeah,
just to go like down the road is like insane. So
yeah.
we take that for granted, I think,
Absolutely.
in our
Yeah.
state here. But I also think it's important to draw the distinction of like, okay, we might not be the company that you need, depending on location, size of job, that kind
Yep.
of thing. So I would like to phrase this conversation in terms of residential, right?
Yep.
Because I'm traditionally residential on real estate. I have seen some interesting situations
Yeah. Tell me.
where it tends to be in the basement, right? The basement's my favorite place to go because I like to start there. It's the story of the home,
Yeah.
right?
It's the
Foundation,
bones.
literally. Um, so I was in a home recently that there was um, electrical wires all over. It was homeowner special,
Yep.
and they were being. And this is not the first time I've seen this, by the way. It was one of the worst ones I've seen,
Stuck
where
out.
the power strips are also hung up so that more could get plugged in.
Yeah. There you go.
And yeah, right. Sometimes they're very innocent, right? Sometimes they are. There is an extra work light somebody wanted to like
Sure. A
have,
lamp.
and yeah, most times that's not always the case.
Yeah. They're running a small power grid down there off an extension cord.
My favorite thing, I'm going to take a half step back before we get into this, is on social media when everybody says, could I have an affordable electrician?
Gotta love that.
Love it.
Yep.
And I never respond because I couldn't. Like actually I did once, and I'm like, why am I bothering doing
Right.
this?
It's
Like why am because I tried to educate, and I'm like trying to say, do you want affordable or do you want it done right?
Yeah. I mean, affordable in itself is a relative term,
It is
right?
such a relative term.
I mean, affordable is getting the job done well, right, you know, um, and being safe, you know.
In your business, I want the person to do it right the first time.
Yeah.
And guess what? The fact of the matter is you get to charge high prices. You do.
Mm-hmm.
But the other fact of the matter is there's industry standard
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, obviously within reason.
Of course.
And there's always people in any industry that will be on the higher end, and you never want, in my opinion, the one that's the
Cheapest.
lowest,
Yeah.
that's the cheapest,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
And yeah, so if you can just maybe go into that a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you want to make sure anyone you're hiring is licensed and insured for what they claim to be doing.
Yeah.
Looking at reviews is huge, and if you've gotten them from recommendation, look at their Google reviews. It's going to tell you a lot. What it comes down to is everything runs downhill, right? So if you have good employees that are performing high quality work to code, those employees deserve to be paid well. And for them to get
100%.
paid well, the number being charged out needs to be such that it can support that and also support a margin for every step of the way,
For
right?
every
It just makes sense.
step of the way.
Right.
And covering costs is so important. So if you're going to offer driving an hour,
Yes.
right? People have to understand that costs money.
A lot.
We
Yeah.
don't live in the world now where everybody is from the town you live in. Back in
Exactly.
the day, right? You had the attorney from town, you had your doctor in town. You really didn't theoretically need to leave for very much.
Right.
And everybody used that person.
Right.
So that's just the way it was. It's a different world now.
Entirely. Yeah.
So do you want the guy who's always been in the town, or do you want the best?
Exactly.
And what you do, that comes at a cost.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
just like everybody else, there's insurance, there's
Oh my gosh.
taxes, there's
The good old IRS, the good old state.
there's so much. And for running, everybody or most people proclaim to want to support small business until they see the price tag.
Sure.
Right. So that's a little tangent I just wanted to get out there.
Absolutely.
And really,
And I appreciate-
and
we all
really
appreciate
drive that
that.
home. Yeah. But in terms of the homeowner, this is what I call it, the homeowner special, of the wiring downstairs. Let's talk about that, because a lot of people will say, and this is just like anything else, it's a little Russian roulette, right? Well, nothing's happened. Nothing smoked, nothing sparked, nothing. Can you
It's been fine for 20 years.
talk more about it if you
Well, I
can?
mean, all
if
it
you
takes,
have-
the phrase, the one that broke the camel's back, right?
Yeah.
All it takes is that new homeowner or that, the kid to plug in one more thing and poof,
Yeah.
or something to just finally give out. Anything can happen. I mean, you don't expect a fire to happen. They just end up happening.
The other thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I always say to my buyers and sellers, I know enough.
To be dangerous.
I know enough, but I know enough to shut my mouth. Yes, I can be dangerous, but I know I know to say, okay, I think we need to call somebody, right? Like, I think we need to take a look at this. Doesn't look right to me. That's the phrase I use, but I'm not an electrician. That's the things I'm not a plumber. In terms of that, sometimes it's behind the walls.
Yeah.
Right?
mean, we don't-
Sometimes you don't necessarily see or smell something right away. Particularly in rehabs, that happens when you open things up and you see there are things that maybe could have been tripped, and I don't want to talk like out of turn, so please jump in. But there could be damage sometimes behind the wall that you might not know about.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's like I was talking with Dave when it comes to knob and tube.
Mm.
A lot of those fire situations can happen right in the wall, right in a straight
Yeah.
line of wire. Even if you've got, mice involved with that,
Yep.
that's absolutely a possibility. And then the older materials were more combustible.
Mm.
Maybe the old insulation vermiculite. I mean, I've even seen newspaper. I'm sure you've seen on
Yeah.
Dave's jobs newspaper in
Yeah.
these old walls.
Yeah.
Of course, here
Yep.
that stuff is highly flammable. So one arc, which is like a little. You ever heard like welding? You see that arc?
Yes.
One of those can set the whole house. So it's definitely important to to understand that, and it's good that you're at least able to kind of have an inkling when something's not right, so that you can help your clients keep them safe and try to get a professional in to take a look.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is important is for people to understand the difference between like getting your system changed out, because talk about we threw out some fancy words, and I really try to, for the lack of a better word, like just break it down for people, because a lot, particularly, I'm not going to even say now, that's not the right word. We in the business have language, right? Vermiculite, we're throwing words around,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
sort of a given for us. And when we're
Hmm.
on the job and we take the time to explain it. But in this circumstance, we're just talking, we both know what we're talking about.
Right,
But
right.
maybe if we can break down, like, could you, I'm not looking for like a historical
Sure.
lesson, but there are a ton of older homes that you're in and your guys are in, and people, I shouldn't just say guys,
Sure.
people that are, are working in, and some buyers, current homeowners, sellers, they don't even know what they have,
Right.
right? So that's step one, is that in some of these inspectors, I love them.
Your
I
homes.
love the ones that I love,
Right.
but there's other ones that are freaking people out. They're, sort of speaking out of turn. They're making things up. Um, and of course, that's not every inspector, but let's get back down to the brass tacks and the basics. So, we're not talking about new construction right now. We're
Right.
talking about homes that are older. Can you talk through the different types of electrical systems that you tend to see? Like, we brought up knob and tube.
Yes.
Can you tell a little bit more about that and embellish?
Yeah, like I was talking with Dave about knob and tube somewhat extensively too. It's basically uh, very obsolete. There's no chance of grounding in a system that is run off knob and tube, which is a staple for safety in
Right.
modern days, right?
Yep.
The wires get crumbly. The insurance companies, if they know you have it, they're not going to cover you. They're going to drop you. So that's the biggest thing, right? You're not even going to be covered in an accident
Yeah.
if it's made aware to them,
Right.
or if they find it. So you got to try to get rid of that. And there's been a few um, iterations of wiring since then, right? We've got the steel jacketing, uh, that's the BX cable, and then we've got first generation Romex that had a small little ground, and
Mm.
now we have modern Romex we use in the homes.
Yep.
Um, I think it's worth stating, like these inspectors, the home inspectors, they're covering everything in the home. They know a little
Yeah.
bit about a lot of things.
You're right, 100%. And I think sometimes some get excited and really try to like flex. That's the word that I'm using. Try to show their worth.
Embellish, yeah.
And so I don't believe it's I really don't. I want to, maybe it is intentional. I don't think it is, but there are some who embellish a little too much and then start, you know, saying a little again, because it's like me. I know a lot. I don't know enough to be confident to, like, that's just not my job. I know my lane. Um, and yeah, it can kill a deal, but it also can be, um, it's obviously overwhelming
Right.
when you're going through that process, but you could be miseducating people too.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so yeah, I think in terms of those types of wiring, could a company like you, if people don't know what they like, would you come out and do a service call to explain, like, to like,
Yeah, so what I'd like to do in real estate situations, and I do work with some realtors. If the customer wants a separate electrical inspection, we'll come in
mm,
and we'll do an inspection fee, right? And if upon closing on the home, buying the home, you want to have some work done that we might have been able to identify, a hazard or something that should be improved upon, we'll typically just credit that customer back. But if we're coming to try to educate you about what we see in the home and what might be an
yeah,
issue, yeah, we try to get compensated for our time,
Of
for
course.
our expertise.
Of course,
You
and
know,
that's normal. I
and
mean, I don't
yeah,
know of a
yeah,
company that, yeah, 100%.
yeah,
But I think it is a great service that many homeowners don't think about doing,
yeah.
especially if it's your first time owning a home or it's just not your thing. A
Right,
lot of
right.
people's
It's
it's
worth it.
okay. Like this, like
Yeah,
I, I don't do a lot of things because it's not my thing and I
exactly. Of
call a professional to come in and
course,
help.
of course. That's
Yeah, and educating yourself on what's going on with your electrical system is obviously a huge safety issue, number one.
yeah,
But to your point, if something was to happen, um, from a preemptive standpoint, like you could be on the hook for a lot of money unknowingly.
absolutely.
Like if you have knob and tube, but you
Yeah,
didn't correct it,
right,
your insurance, God forbid something
right,
happens, a
right.
big fire, the insurance company theoretically could say no.
Yeah, you don't know what's in the fine print. Who
Yeah.
reads their entire insurance contract? Because I
Yeah.
haven't,
No.
even with a good insurance agent.
Yep. You're right.
So you don't know what's in the fine print sometimes. So you got to cover yourself.
Yeah.
That in with any trade, whether it's plumbing, pest control, electrical, having that extra particular professional come in and
Yeah.
inspect it's just an investment into your future. Like you might save a ton of money or make money off of having that one, $150 investment,
A
you
hundred
know?
percent.
So I
Yeah.
think it's
Without a
worth it.
doubt. Another common thing that I get, and again, it's not just myself, it's all inspections, is the double tap.
Yeah. So that keeps running through my head about these home inspectors. They pick on a few particular things that always get put in the inspection report. The double tap breaker is the most common. That's
Yeah.
what they love to, and that's fine. It is something not technically correct.
Yeah. And sometimes I've had situations where the buyers have called in an electrician and they were like, yeah, it's a doorbell. Like,
Yeah. Listen,
like
it,
sometimes it is not a safety issue. And again, goes back to relying on it. Don't rely. That's the message. Don't rely on the inspector to be the judge and jury in every situation.
yeah, that's a good way to put it. I would say they're your first line of defense, and then
Yes.
it's time to break it
Yes.
down to the particular professional.
100%. But make sure that don't just stop there. That's my
Exactly.
that's my best piece of advice because sometimes it is a safety issue. Isn't wasn't there, speaking of safety issues, was it a faulty panel or faulty breaker or something that there was like manufactured?
Yeah. So I actually almost talked about this with Dave, and I'm glad you brought it up. Federal Pacific.
Yes.
Yes, that is a brand that's been long discontinued, and just like knob and tube, when known by the insurance companies, they will say you have to change it or we're going to drop you.
Right.
They're a manufacturer that had known issue with basically the breakers not tripping when they were supposed to be tripping, supposed to be performing the
Right.
function they're supposed to do. They were not tripping and they were causing fires.
And theoretically they could still be in houses.
They are. I do see them, and I immediately point them
Do.
out. It was just yesterday. It wasn't the
Wow.
entire electrical panel, but it was a small sub panel that was
Panel.
controlling the 30 amp 240-volt hot water heater. It was just a 2 pole 30, but it was Federal Pacific. And I told them, I recommend we change this out for a modern disconnect.
Wow.
Yeah, all the time. I see it in commercial settings too. Yeah, we got to try to get rid of those Federal Pacifics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much of your day-to-day business is residential versus commercial?
I would say I'm like 60% residential, 40% commercial.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yep.
Cool. In terms of sub panels, because that's another one. I have had, I think my record is 3 or 4.
On a house.
Yeah.
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 One off the other, off the other, off the other, or
I've had one off the other, off the other. I don't think I got further than that. And
Yeah.
then a different panel.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's another thing that should basically just call the electrician.
Yeah.
Call Tom and his crew and get you in
Right.
to do that triple check.
Absolutely. Just to see, like, is the system being overloaded?
Yeah.
Like the way that the previous owner is living in the home may not be the same that you're living in that home. So even though nothing's changed, the way that you use the system
Yeah.
may be an issue where it wasn't before. So being prepared for that, and like you said, preemption is prudent. It's going to help you. It's going to save you a lot of
100%.
problems. You don't want to be, without power because your main breaker tripped and it won't reset because your system's been overloaded. It never happened before, but now that plugged in your car charger while you had the oven going and it's the summer and your AC's kicking, all this is happening and your system really should have been updated and upgraded to a larger amperage a long time ago.
I'm glad that you said that because we are talking about worst case is safety, fire, that's worst case.
Of course.
However, there's also another case, to your point, I'm glad that you said that, is that it could just be a whole big inconvenience and something that I don't love. It's happened plenty of times, but it's not my preferred method when life forces me to do something.
Right.
When you're like, oh, we don't have a water heater right now, or oh, we don't have electricity right now. And it's different if it's, completely out of your control, which is a storm or, the CLMP or CLMP. I'm dating myself. I just said CLMP.
I've seen the CLMP.
So
it's okay.
Everybody knows.
No, I've seen CLMP too.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. But we're waiting on Eversource or United Illuminating or whatever to get us back online. But sometimes this could be completely prevented. And yeah, it should be.
And not only is it stressful and it's an inconvenience, but it's going to cost you more money now. If you had the time to get quotes and preemptively have this stuff updated, you would have been able to get the best price for, qualified, great work. Now you're in frenzy mode. You're going to take the first call, first guy that comes out to do it. And it may not even be the best job, and they're going to charge you, out the butt.
Well, it's premium pricing because it's urgent.
It's now.
It's just
it's
like
an emergency.
24/7.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
It's
a really good point.
I'll do it too. If we've got storms, and we have to come out in emergency, it absolutely costs more than if we were just to replace the service on a regular scheduled day.
100%. And as you should, because it's inconvenient for you or your crew. 100%. Yeah. And that's another good point that I wouldn't have brought up. So thanks for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You also triggered something that I had thought about, which could be a reason why people would need a full house upgrade. One of those that I'm thinking about is that you want to add a sauna. You want to add like a cold plunge sauna situation. You want to add I've had people have tanning beds at home.
Yeah, rarely, but yes.
Rarely.
Definitely need.
I've had it.
For that. Yeah.
And then charging for electric cars.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
And how do people, they would call you would do the assessment and then determine. And what's the process if they needed more amps?
Right.
Yeah.
So if we determine that the load of the system has a capability of being ran over what you have with what the branch circuits are, and you say you're going to add a heat pump system and a car charger and all this, and I've got the spaces in the panel, but you don't necessarily, if everything you have is electric, you don't have gas, you probably need an upgrade to add these things, a service upgrade from 100 to 200.
Yeah.
In some cases, 200 to 400.
Okay.
In larger cases, but basically, once we've assumed that you need that service upgrade, we're gonna do two things. We're gonna get a contract with you. We're gonna call the power company first to get a service request, whether it's UI or Eversource, and we're gonna take that service request, bring it to the town, and pull a permit with the town.
Okay.
And then we are gonna schedule with you to basically you're gonna be without power that whole day.
Okay.
But only for that day.
Okay.
We get as many guys as we need out, depending on the size of the job.
Yep.
All the equipment and the material ready ahead of time to come out. Tear your old system out. And this is basically, let me just backtrack to be more clear.
Yeah.
This is not every wire in the house This is the electrical panel from where the wires in the house go to, and from there outside all the way to where the wires connect from the house to the road.
Okay. Thank you for making
Yes.
that. No,
Yes.
because again, people don't, and to no fault of their own, how would
Course,
they know?
of course. We're
You know, they
talking.
think you're going to be in there,
Yeah.
all day long
Yeah.
running brand new
No,
wires.
right.
Yeah.
That's a whole different job. That's a complete renovation of your home essentially. But this is, a service upgrade.
Right.
Electrical. Yeah. So that's gonna take. It takes a day.
Yep.
In all cases, it's just a matter of how many guys do we need in that day to get
Right.
it done, depending on the job.
Yep.
Because they vary. Everyone varies a little bit. For your viewers, right now your standard basic 100 amp to 200 amp service upgrade. That's just no problems, no surprises. It's gonna cost you between 3 and 3,500,
Okay.
3,000, 3,500. Your standard now, and that's gone up. That's gone up over the years. It used to be when I came in the industry that was 2,000.
Okay.
You know,
Interesting.
so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
crazy
Well,
the cost of
everything.
material
Yeah.
and
inflation
code
is real.
changes. I should have talked to Dave about this too, but surge protection is a code now. When we go to do a service upgrade, now we're putting surge protection in your panel.
Okay.
And it's a smart thing. Even before it was code, it's a good idea.
Right.
Because when you get that lightning strike, you get that storm, it's going to protect the equipment in your home better.
Right.
Not that it's so much a fire hazard, but it's going to, I mean, I've seen from lightning strikes, entire homes, electronics go out, including your stove, your fridge.
Yeah.
And that's to the point where they had to, make an insurance claim to have that all replaced. And a big inconvenience where it could have just been a simple device in your electrical panel,
Right. Yeah.
for us to come out maybe $300, $400 could save you thousands,
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. And again, to go back, when we're talking about like codes, we're talking the building department, it establishes certain rules, regulations on what you can and cannot do, what's safe, what's not, and that gets updated.
Yeah.
And whatever they say is what you do. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But that means in this circumstance that you have more material, more time, more labor to put in to make sure that everything is meeting code.
Correct.
Yeah.
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 It's,
In terms of other residential things, what do you recommend or not recommend a homeowner do for electrical work?
first thing that I would say is to have an electrician make sure that everything is GFCI protected where it's supposed to be.
Yep.
Because that's GFCI protection has come in to prevent shock hazard. So where you might not have a fire, you have potential for a shock hazard.
So let's break that down even further. The GFCI
Yep.
is I'm going to put it in layman's terms, and you please correct me if I'm speaking out of turn.
No problem.
It's a plate. We're going to call it a plate. That is not it's not a plate.
Yeah, we'll
but
call it a device.
This is what it looks like. I like
Yeah.
that. A device. And when it has buttons, that's how you know what that looks like,
Yes,
right?
Yep.
And most of the times for us women, I'll speak to women, usually when we're doing our hair tools sometimes we're pushing buttons, fiddling. Sometimes we do it. Maybe it's just me. But I
No,
don't
it's
think
not.
so.
Certainly, it's not. I can promise. I can assure you, and it's not just women either.
Okay, there you go. So I have just done it myself where I've accidentally hit the button, go to turn the stupid thing on, and I'm like, what the heck? And I have to push
Yes.
the button.
Yes.
This is
Yep.
layman's. Push
Yeah.
the button.
Yeah.
Those are
The
the
reset button.
So yes, that's what we're talking about now. So in terms of that, making sure that it's everywhere where it's supposed to be, which is traditionally near water,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Cool.
You got it. So or even if there's moisture, like basements.
Right.
But definitely your kitchens, your bathrooms within 6 feet of a sink, anything. You guys in basements, garages.
So in my first example, I could promise you that there was none in that basement that I was just
exactly.
in.
And like to the naked eye, nothing
None.
looks wrong. Like obviously when you see these wires hanging, that's
Right.
a problem, right? But to the naked eye, you see an outlet. No, it looks like a regular outlet, but it's
Yes.
not being protected properly. It's not just code. It's code for a reason.
Yeah.
It's to protect you.
When you start to do certain things in your home and you're doing them the right way, which is by pulling permits,
Mhm.
the building official will force you to come up to code if you're out with things like electrical, plumbing, things like that. They'll look at everything, right?
Yeah.
So you start remodeling a room and they're going to make sure that it's safe, even if, you're not necessarily touching the electrical.
Right.
They want to make sure that it's working well.
Absolutely.
And I've only luckily had it a couple times from the seller's perspective, but I've had sellers who have remodeled things without the town knowing it exists. And then it was a nightmare bringing an electrician coming in to take a look after the fact.
Yeah, that's always a problem. And I really try to help people as many ways as I can. So I'm the type that I will take on that kind of job, but I know a lot of colleagues of mine won't even take that job on.
I can attest to that because I was in the hunt and you and I didn't know each other then. And it was a chore to find somebody, which is understandable. Truthfully, it is.
It's a lot of liability.
It is.
You really got to do a lot to cover your ass.
Yep.
And put the right documentation in place to cover yourself.
100%.
Sometimes it's not worth
100%.
it.
Yeah. I feel like there was a lot that we covered, and I'm so thankful for you coming in. I really appreciate your time. I tried to close it with the same question, which is, what's your favorite part of your home?
My home?
I know we're both like having a moment.
I know.
No, I just gave my throat thing,
Sorry to
whatever
interrupt.
that is to you. Yes. Your favorite room, your favorite part, your favorite.
I mean, as a guy, I'd say it's the garage. So we got all your toys and all your tools, and you're organizing it exactly how you want, and it's just yours.
I love
It's
it.
the garage for me.
I
What
love
about
it.
you?
Thanks for no one has asked me.
No? Come
Yes,
on.
you're the first
Come
one.
on.
Nobody's asked me. I'm gonna give a cheesy answer. It's driving in. That's my answer. I love where we live, but it's like my safe spot. It's just I love going home.
Yeah.
And I've met a lot of people who don't. And my heart hurts for them a little bit. Some people don't love that feeling. I'm one of them that do, and I count myself lucky for that.
That's awesome. Yes, wherever you get that warm, fuzzy feeling.
I know. It's true. But thank you so much
Thank you so
again.
much, Sarah. I
And if
appreciate it.
people want to look you up, find you, call you to come in, how could they find you?
Yeah, I mean, type in Buck Electric
Cool.
LLC in Google, and
Nice.
we'll come right up
Awesome.
for sure.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good
Thanks
to
for
speak with you
coming.
today. My pleasure.